Hey, welcome back. We're looking again at Monkey, which is Arthur Waley's abridged translation of Wu Qing'an's lengthy Journey to the West. This is our 9th episode, and our final episode, because in this, we finally reach India and have our return journey. This is, of course, the part we've been anticipating for quite some time, but as we arrive in India, the question that comes to mind is, have our heroes grown at this point? Have they achieved the kind of spiritual growth that they need to accomplish this task? And the answer is, well, yes, in that the book says they do. But they also seem very much like the same old characters that we've seen all the way along. They're still laughing at each other, making fun of each other, joking with each other. Tripitaka is still crying at obstacles. Pigsy's still devouring everything he can get his hands on. Monkey is still kind of snarky and also willing to beat things up if he needs to. And Sandy is still that mysterious, somewhat ominous figure in the background. When I talk to my own students about this, I have them look for evidence on both sides, that our characters have developed morally, and that they have failed to develop morally. And there are interesting points both ways. But they also, even after achieving enlightenment, seem like they still have a lot of the same characteristics. But maybe I'm looking at this too much from a Western perspective. The journey is about very slow growth. It's not about perfection, it's not about complete transformation necessarily. It's about, in some ways, the encountering and continuing in the face of one's own weaknesses. Also, looking at it from a universal perspective, at this point we get to look at the end of the hero's journey. How does this book reflect that particular pattern? Well, towards the end of the hero's journey, there's always the apotheosis, the moment of deep breath before the final encounter. And there's often sort of a death of the main character. Do we have a death of the main character here? Well, Tripitaka's body does float away in the river as they cross into paradise. At first, he doesn't even realize that it's him in his own body. But that physical death and that arrival in enlightenment is a kind of dying and apotheosis that leads him into his final victory. He also gets to see Buddha face to face, which is very important. And we see that his encounter with Buddha is actually also a restoration, because at one point he used to be the golden cicada. But because he failed to revere and listen to Buddha's scriptures, he was put back into the wheel of reincarnation. And he's finally returned. We also have elements of magic flight as they are carried back on a wind. And a lot of other great elements that are a nice conclusion to the hero's journey kind of story. If you want to look back at my video over the hero's journey, I will include it in the card and also in the video notes below. But even their arrival here isn't without its complications, and there are a few more hurdles that they have to pass through before everything is finally resolved. They arrive at the mountain finally, and Monkey points out that this is paradise. This is the place that they've been looking for this whole time, and Tripitaka is so excited. And as they begin their journey, they come to a river that is very difficult to cross. There is a very narrow bridge, and Monkey, of course, has no trouble crossing it, back and forth. But Tripitaka is horrified and feels like it's impossible for him. Fortunately, though, there's a ferry boat to ferry them across. However, there isn't a bottom to the boat, and so as they're riding across in the boat, Tripitaka's body slips out and floats away. But not Tripitaka, just his physical self. And they all congratulate him because he has finally risen above the physical. He arrives on top of the mountain and gets to meet Buddha. He's then sent to receive the scriptures. But because Tripitaka doesn't tip Ananda and Kasyapa, two of Buddha's very significant disciples, and they were actually important in Buddha's own life. But here they're kind of petty, and they get angry at Tripitaka for not tipping them when they give him the scriptures. And so they trick him by giving him blank scriptures. Fortunately, their trick is overheard by Dipankara, and so he sends a wind to blow the scriptures up into the air. And when Monkey and Pigsy collect the scriptures, they discover that they're blank. There are no words on them. And so our heroes return rather disturbed to Buddha, who then sends them to get the real scriptures. This time, Tripitaka is smart enough to give them a tip, and he gives them the golden begging bowl that the Emperor gave him way back in China. Kuan Yin appears and petitions for them since it's taken them so long to get here, and in fact it has taken them 5,040 days. And since the number of scrolls they're taking is 5,048, it makes sense that the whole journey should take 5,048 days. So let's get him back within the week. So the 8 Vajrapanis use their magic to lift them up in a cloud and begin to carry them home. But as they're being flown home, the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin does a little bit of figuring and realizes they've undergone 80 calamities. And since 9 times 9, 81, is a holy number, they should have just one more before it's over. Notice how many of their calamities were brought on by Kuan Yin herself. Even though, to be fair, she also fixes most of them for them. So suddenly, about halfway home, they're dropped out of the sky. And they find themselves on the shore of a river. They look around and then realize the river is familiar. This is the same river where they faced the great King of Miracles. As they begin to discuss how they should go about crossing it, up comes the turtle, the same turtle that they saw last time. Boop, 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 boop. And although we've missed most of the return locations and all the people we said we'd see on our way back, we do see the turtle. And if you remember, the turtle had asked Tripitaka for a particular favor. The turtle says, "Oh, I'll be happy to give you another ride back across the river." And so they get on his back. But as they're riding, the turtle says, "Did you remember to ask Buddha when I get to turn human?" And Tripitaka goes, "Uh-oh." Because he forgot. He forgot about helping the turtle. He was so caught up in seeing Buddha for himself and getting the scriptures that slipped his mind. Again, what does that mean? Does that show moral development in Tripitaka? Is it a coincidence? I'm not really sure. But Tripitaka hems and haws for a minute and the turtle gets annoyed, realizing that Tripitaka has forgotten him. And so the turtle dives down, leaving Tripitaka and all the disciples floating in the water. Tripitaka is a much better swimmer now that he no longer has a physical form, and so they're able to get back to the other side of the river rather quickly, but all those scriptures are soaking wet. Oh no. They realize they need to dry them out, but then a horrible night comes where all these spirits and demons float out of the air and want to snatch the scriptures away from them. And so Monkey, Pigsy, and Sandy have to fight all night long, knocking away the spirits and keeping the scriptures safe. Ah, what a calamity. But all's well that ends well. We end up with the scriptures being safe, except for that one that got stuck to the rock while they were drying. And our old friends from the village, who they rescued on the way there, welcome them back in and give them food. Pigsy's a little off his appetite, having had heavenly food. Now he's not as interested in human rice, but he still does a pretty good job. But our heroes also realize that we've got a case of hero worship going on here, and that the people of the village are going to want to keep them because of all their deep spiritual wisdom that they've gained on their journey. And so they're going to need to sneak out. Fortunately for them, their calamity's over, and the Vajrapanas fly them back up in the air and soar them back to China. They meet the emperor and show him the scriptures and tell him about them, and then they are carried back all the way to India, where they finally receive their reward. Tripitaka becomes a Buddha! Yay! He did, after all, achieve enlightenment. Guess who else becomes a Buddha? Monkey becomes a Buddha. Buddha victorious in strife. It does seem interesting to me that he becomes a Buddha for beating people up. That doesn't seem like Buddhism to me. But again, maybe I'm missing something. Is it supposed to be ironic? I'm not even sure. The fightin' Buddha. Sandy becomes the golden-bodied Arhat, which is not quite Buddha, but still pretty good. The dragon horse gets restored and becomes one of the 8 heavenly dragons. And Pigsy gets to be altar cleanser, cleaner of altars. Wait a second! How come Monkey and Tripitaka get to be Buddhas and I have to be altar cleaner? Well, Buddha says because you don't deserve it, for one thing, but also altar cleaner's not that bad. You get to eat all the offerings off of all the altars. Hey, enabling my gluttony, I love it! Again, what does that mean? I don't know, but it's kind of funny. Finally, Monkey says, hey, we've come all this way, we're both Buddhas now, it's time for you to remove the headache fillet from my head, because you don't need to give me headaches anymore. We've got the same status now. But Tripitaka says, ah, silly monkey, touch the top of your head and you'll see that your fillet has vanished. Because when you gained enlightenment and became a Buddha, it went away of its own accord. Ah, it was true, Monkey is free from the headache. And so they all lived happily, spiritually ever after. What a fantastic book. It's got so many layers to it, so many nuances and so many details, and so many of them even that I still need to continue to learn about. Not to mention that this was just the abridged version I've been talking about in the last 9 episodes. The full version includes many more wonderful stories, including the fantastic episodes that involve the Demon Bull King and Princess Ironfan, where Monkey has to turn into a bee and fly inside her stomach to get her Iron Fan to put out the Fire Mountain. And there's Red Boy. There's also this absolutely fantastic episode where they come to the Kingdom of Women. And of course, because they're all women, it's very difficult for them to become pregnant. So there's this magical river that they drink from, which makes them pregnant. And Tripitaka, without realizing it, drinks from the river and becomes pregnant! And has to balance the whole, am I gonna become a, stay-at-home mom, or am I gonna continue my career of journeying to the West? I'm not even joking. On top of that, he falls in love with the Queen of the Kingdom. There are so many more fun episodes, and maybe someday in the future when I have the time, I'll do some bonus episodes and tell you about some of those. But for now, thanks for watching with me, thanks for experiencing this journey with me, and I hope that you continue to discover and explore new wonderful works of literature throughout the world. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.